Dear fellows, welcome back to the channel. This is Junior Scientist, and we have just started a series of lecture, and this would be the fourth lecture of our lectures related to biology. And we were just studying about vertebrates. We have studied a few organisms, just like a fish, maybe amphibians, and now we have just started. Uh, Reptiles. Now you should be clear, like reptiles are called as land living vertebrates. They really don't need water for their fusing up for the sake of reproduction or maybe for the sake of laying eggs. They don't need water. But obviously they need to intake water for their survival. But for the essential activities like reproduction, they don't need water, just like we just studied in the amphibians, because they were called as dual survival organisms. Now, up to their skins are dry, and the lower layer of epidermis gives some patterns of the scales. This dry skin or dry scaly skin resists water loss. Obviously, it is well known theory, like reptiles feel happy to promote their survival, or they feel comfort to survive in the hot regions. So obviously, when some organism is living in the hotter region, they might have to suffer from the dehydration. So to prevent themselves from the dehydration, their layer, they contain some scales on them, or yeah, so some they have some sort of patterns on them for the, like, for diverting attention of their predators. For the sake of resisting the dehydration, they contain such skin or scaly skin on them. The next point is that also the eggs of most species have tough and parchment like scale like shells. Obviously most of the reptiles lay eggs. When they lay eggs, they have to monitor them so that nobody can come or break them. They might have fear of predators. They might have suffered from the fear, like any bird could come and like carry on their eggs. So in that case, they have some sort of like shell or parchment of protection on them. But also some of those eggs could survive, some can't. Next point is that therefore they are not resistant to damp, they are not resistant to damp habitat, or they don't need water to breathe. So basically, they can survive on soil, they can survive on land for the sake of such activities. They don't need water. Next is they are also kilothermic. They are like cold-blooded organisms, but they regulate their body temperature to some extent. You should be clear, like to some extent, they can regulate their body temperature just like warm-blooded do. What they could do is, when they feel extremely cold, if they find like sun rays anywhere, or hot weather, or hot climate, or maybe heat in certain area, maybe near the fire. So until the heat or hot temperature is there, they can resist those like cold-blooded conditions. So when they warm up, they move away from those certain areas. There is, you can see like how they are. The best example of them is nowadays, which is available, it is like lizards, but crocodiles, snakes are also examples of them. Now like some organisms of these reptilia family possess some sort of activity which is called as regeneration. This tail of lizards can regenerate, like that is probably a most regenerated body part any organism could have on him. Now they contain some dry scaly skin on it. They have paired legs which allow it to move firmly on the walls. Apart from the snake, reptiles have four limbs, although some of them contain five limbs on them, but some toes on them. When it comes to some snakes, they also contain some like signs of foot on them, but obviously they lack any moving limbs or foot. The best thing is that when it comes to the snake, there is a certain season when snakes shed their outermost layer or their outermost skin, and they regenerate their entire skin. So that is also another feature of this amazing group. When it comes to the reproduction, when male and female reptiles make, they sperms are passed into the female body. The eggs are laid. Therefore, they are fertilized internally before they are going to lay their eggs. Also, in some species, female retains the egg in the body until they are ready to hatch. Then they lay it. Another feature is also observed in the period of reproduction. When male lay upon their sperms, female is going to eat that like male for the sake of survive for the sake of her survival, so that she can eat him, and later on she can use that energy for the certain period until she could lay those eggs in. That is another theory. Now, that's it. Another feature, another phylum is like when it comes to the birds. Birds are usually warm-blooded or homeothermic organisms. They can maintain their body temperature. They don't face changes when it comes to external environment change. They possess vertebral column in the neck. Their neck is flexible. They can move. You can have an example of owl. His like neck can move up to an angle of 360 degree, I guess, or maybe 180. Now, the rest of their body, if you use to that is rigid, obviously, that can show flexibility, but it's for a certain limit. That is, they are adapted to flight. They can flight well. They have powerful, like flight muscles, which could be able to carry out weight of their body, and they contain an epidermis, which obviously, like they covers the feathers. They also contain some sort of protection on the legs or on their toes, because their wings and their legs are, or their feet are highly exposed. They are highly exposed to the certain air. Obviously, when they flight faster, they I mean, their body have to face huge temperature and pressure, so that's why they have some sort of protections given by the nature on them. Next point is that birds have four limbs. Okay, so there are certain types of limbs are also available. Some birds have fluffy down feathers, which aids them for the sake of insulating layer, for the sake of their protection. Another is contour feathers, which covers their body, which give them shape, make them colored, make them unique. So some are having large feathers on them, and what they are doing, they are they are responsible for, they are essential for flight, so that they could have enough strength to carry out their body weight. Next part is birds have four limbs, and but the four limbs are modified to form wings. The feet have four toes with the claws, which help the bird to perch. I mean, they can easily break up those seeds. They can break the seeds. They can like torn apart their food into pieces. So that is why they contain enough strength to feed them. Next point is they contain upper and lower jaws, and later on those upper and lower jaws are extended to form a beak, which is used for feeding. When it comes to the laying eggs, some birds, I mean birds, where their fertilization is internal, and the female lay hard shell eggs in the next when she, and later on she is going to incubate them. Remember that when it comes to incubation is an activity when female birds provide heat to their offspring, so that eggs could complete a certain period of time, and then they could came out of their eggs. And remember that when they use it is a period of time when their wings, or when their feathers got enough energy to break those shells, so then they can came out of that egg. So basically, here is the beak, four limbs or body feathers, which makes them beautiful. Okay. Now, the last organism is basically mammals. You and I, we are all mammals. Mammals are basically homeothermic, which are warm-blooded, which have some vertebrates have four limbs, and also they differ from the birds in having some of them are having hairs upon them, just like humans are having hairs instead of feathers, because we don't need them. Unlike other vertebrates, they have a diaphragm, because we and the other mammals need a protection for our vital organs. So we just have some sort of diaphragm for the sake of protection. So when we breathe in, breathe out, we have lungs. We don't need gills. So they have a mammary gland, which is used for the feeding purpose of the young ones. They're going to suck a milk from those mammary glands. Next is humans are mammals. They give birth to a child instead of laying eggs. They obviously the fertilization is internal. There is a specific time when the child or offspring or the zygote even needs to grow. At least a period of 9 months is required. But in some mammals, it's a shorter time. In some mammals, they need even more time for the sake of such activities. Also, some organisms may be blind and helpless when they're born. So just like cats, or they could hardly stand up. They could hardly move ahead. They need time for the fully grow for fully grown up. Sheep and cows, another example. In case they just sometimes they feed on milk from they need their mother for the sake of the support. Also, because that milk contain enough nutrients for their survival, they contain some specific antibodies which child can take and grow well, and can have enough immunity to for the initial stages. Next is so the child is internally the mammalic child is dependent entirely dependent upon his parents at initial stages. As soon as he grown up, then he could move his own and own. In case of carnivores, parents bring the food for feeding up their young ones, and later on as they grow, they feel that they have gone big enough, like they could have their own prey, then they are allowed to move anywhere they want. Okay, that's it till this point. That was second lecture, and in this lecture we have studied three organisms. We have just studied reptiles, and reptiles. The best example was lizards. They have hard, scaly skin for resisting the predators, or for the sake of survival they need it. Then we learned the snakes are also a part of it. They shed their skin, they just regrow their skin, and that was it. Most of them are predators actually. Next one is the birds. Birds are usually warm-blooded organisms, and they contain the major concern was their feathers. Some are short feathers, some are long feathers. That all depend with how much flight they need to do, or they do different adaptations. But most amazing thing is like their neck was flexible. Next is we just studied our favorite group, which is about mammals. Humans, you and I, and other organisms are also mammals. They are dependent upon their parents. Their reproduction is internal for a specific period of time, and they are dependent upon their parents until they got mature. So that was it till this point. If you feel any confusion, you can send us email. So please hit the like button, share the videos, and subscribe to the channel. So coming up to the next lecture, we will move ahead to the differences among different organisms that we have studied, and also we will see how we can elaborate the differences and how we can check them into the different scenarios. So thank you. See you next time.